Bobby Broyles and Tim McDonald here.
Should be a really interesting matchup. Buckle up. If you're not watching, you got some problems.
Thanks for tuning in to the midweek edition of our 12 Teams in 12 Days segment presented by Geico. Bobby Broyles joined by my co-host Tim McDonald. Today we're looking at the Spiders, and it was a special season for Richmond in 2015, reaching the semifinals of the FCS playoffs. 19 total starters returning for Danny Rocco's team this year, highlighted, of course, by that lethal combo of preseason Offensive Player of the Year Kyle Lauletta and wide receiver Brian Brown.
It really did feel like a total complete effort and a complete team for Danny Rocco's squad in 2015. You know, think about that 2 years ago, 2014, Richmond gets to the playoffs. Last year, obviously, they make that run, the push to the semifinals, beat William & Mary twice at home, including the playoffs. Then you beat Illinois State on the road, a place that no one had success winning at before. I mean, 6-1 start. You beat JMU in that game that was featured on College Game Day. William & Mary twice, like we said. And, of course, you reach all the way. You go to Fargo. You reach the national semifinals. I think you just have to carry that momentum over. It's not as simple as a show and go. But, of course, as you alluded to, you start with Lauletta and Brown. I mean, Kyle Lauletta, we didn't really know who this kid was a year ago. And now you think about it, he's on the preseason All-CAA team. He's the preseason Player of the Year on offense. I mean, him and Brown developed a rapport at the end of last season. Brian Brown's a guy who had 76 catches, led all CAA football players, 111.5 yards per game. More importantly, I think we saw that later in the season. How many times down the field did we see him make a catch with no one around him? 19.1 yards per catch, 6 total touchdowns. I mean, think about it. Lauletta's a guy who led CAA football, pass efficiency, led CAA football in passing. The Richmond offense led CAA football in pass offense, second in scoring. So many people back. It's not all golden, though, when you think about the Spiders on offense. You do need to replace Jacoby Green, a guy who rushed for 1,500 yards and 20-plus touchdowns. Seth Fisher is gone. Reggie Diggs is gone. There's a lot of questions, especially at the running back position. We expect Gordon Collins probably to fill that role, maybe some other guys who we don't know yet. But so many players back, like you said, 19 total starters, so many guys back in this system on offense, that I think is going to guide Richmond again. Lauletta and Brown are, in my opinion right now, easily the best in CAA football. I think they could be the best duo in the FCS. The only thing that I think you look for early on, especially, is a new offensive coordinator. Charlie Fisher, the offensive coordinator who was new last year, left to take the Western Illinois head coaching job. So that could shake some things up. But again, I think Danny Rocco and Richmond have proven, especially as the year continues, phenomenal coach in terms of changing his team's identity game-by-game process. And we saw Richmond 2015, a heck of a year. I think they're in place again in 2016 to have another memorable season.
Of course, can't forget about their mammoth offensive line led by the all-strength team, Thomas Evans up there on the offensive line. Take a listen to Coach Rocco at Media Day talking about his quarterback and wide receiver.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, Kyle's got really good touch, great accuracy with the ball. They work a lot together in terms of timing and reading the defense and having a great understanding of where he'll be and where Kyle will want to get the ball. So it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch the two of them grow together. And we'll continue to find ways to get Brian Brown the ball. But we have a really good, deep group of receivers. We lose Reggie Diggs. He's on contract right now with the Redskins. But we have everybody else back. All of our tight ends are back. So I think Kyle's got a real good group of receivers to distribute the ball to. And I think that'll allow for people to take some of their focus off Brian. And we'll always be looking to hit the big play, though, to Brian Brown down the field.
Tim, we know the offense usually steals the show during this series, but with Richmond, I also see a solid 1-2 punch in linebacker Omar Howard and CAA preseason Defensive Player of the Year in safety David Jones.
You talk about Omar Howard, and along comes David Jones. And Howard's a guy who we've known in recent years just because he's been the starting linebacker for so many years in his college career. David Jones was a guy, we knew he was a safety, we knew he was pretty good. We didn't think we'd see what we saw last year. 9 interceptions, led CAA, led the FCS, also had a career-high 97 tackles. Think about those two guys as leaders on this defense. We talked about how many people the offense brings back, and Lauletta and Brown are obviously key, but not many teams can also say they have two guys back, especially seniors on defense who can also lead. No question, as stable as the offense was, is going to be, and was last year, the defense for this team, I think, carried it at times. Led the CAA in turnover margin, +8. A lot of that obviously had to do David Jones having 9 interceptions, as we said. A lot of that had to factor in. Omar Howard, though, I mean, CAA leader in tackles, 136, also had 5.5 sacks. Think about up and down in the playoffs, too. Andrew Clyde, Winston Craig, a bunch of those guys stepped up. The win over William Mary to end the regular season, 20-9. The win over William Mary in the playoffs, 48-13. The win at Illinois State, 39-27. The defense at times, I think, got away from what it's best at, but I think also at the same time, when the hatches were down and when the storm was coming, the defense knew how to get the job done. I think that's, you start with Jones and Howard, hands down, if you're Richmond on defense in 2016, and those two guys, again, are back to lead this squad again.
Very impressive. Here's Coach Rocco on his 2 senior leaders on defense.
Well, they've been extraordinary leaders and players for us. They're both really humble young men, and they're both extremely committed and productive. Omar has been the same guy every day since the day he came on campus. He is hard-working and focused and team-oriented, and he brings a lot of energy out there to the field. David Jones is very dynamic, very rare in his skill set, his athleticism, his range back there playing the deep ball. He's got an unbelievable ability to close and tackle. He's got great instincts to the ball. And then we have a defensive lineman in Winston Craig, who's also a veteran, talented senior in the front. So we got great talent in the front wave at the D-line. The linebacking core is led by Omar Howard, and then the secondary's got David Jones. So it's not like we're saying we're going to be really good in the defensive front, but might be limited in other areas. We got good leadership, a good talent, and a high-level productive player in all 3 levels of the defense, and that really is exciting to me.
Big expectations for this talented Spiders team going into 2016, Tim. And when we look ahead at their schedules, something you noticed right away when the schedules came out, Richmond only leaves the state of Virginia 3 times for the entire season, and one of them being at Elon. How much will that benefit Richmond this fall?
You know, we talk about travel. Well, they don't have to go this far. They don't have to go that far. But I really do think it is going to help the Spiders. And obviously, I think one of the best parts about this schedule in its entirety, besides the obvious of playing at home, you also have a non-conference game versus Colgate, which was the only non-conference FCS game across CAA football where a team plays another team that reached the FCS playoffs. So those 2 teams will play again, Richmond and Colgate. And, of course, you open up with UVA. That's an ESPN3 game. I think it's a primetime matchup. Not only is it a short trip across I-64, is it?
Yeah,
You're a Richmond guy.
45 minutes away.
Just about 45 minutes down the road. But we know the ties that Danny Rocco has had with Virginia. We know he's coached there. We know he's had family members who coached there and played there. I like that too. Obviously, UVA has a new head coach in Bronco Mendenhall. And here comes Richmond, ranked 4th in the preseason polls. So a lot of pressure on UVA in that game, which I think can only benefit the Spiders. But do you think about the farthest conference? I mean, obviously the farthest road trip that we look at on the paper, Stony Brook and UAlbany, those New York schools. But again, a huge, huge conference opener, to say the least, at Stony Brook. That's an early September game, and UAlbany on October 8th. But the rest of the home schedule is just phenomenal the way it ends up. And it's not to say that this is an easy schedule and Richmond's just going to walk through, but it does set up very nicely. Home versus Norfolk State, like we said, versus Colgate at home. You get Towson at home, Villanova at home, James Madison. Oh, and you get Delaware at home also. So for the Spiders, the amount of people that they have coming back, the amount of games that they have at home, you think that's only going to benefit them. Let's not forget, too, all the time we talk about, quarterbacks in this conference. Richmond really is the team that we've talked about so far that has real solidity at that quarterback position. A lot of teams have question marks. Richmond doesn't. But again, you take away from that, Richmond still has to work in that running back position. So you give and take if you are the Spiders. But again, it's unique to think about this Spider team heading into 2016 and how many not only key pieces but very important pieces on both sides of the ball are back.
Absolutely, and you can't forget about that last game on the road at William & Mary. That's going to be a great rivalry game.
You beat your rival twice in 1 year. William & Mary's going to remember that one.
Exactly. The Spiders make the quick trip across I-64 West for the season opener Saturday, September the 3rd at 3:30 to take on Virginia out of the ACC. That game can be seen on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app.
I know we talked about these guys a lot today, but Kyle Auletta and Omar Howard, our crew met with them at Media Day. You can check out both of their game day features now on CAAfootball.com, and you also know we have you covered on Twitter, we have you covered on Facebook, Any other social media platforms, check those out now.
Omar Howard's a veteran at media.
I know. Guy's been around forever.
Stony Brook is next up on our 12 Teams in 12 Days series presented by Geico. And we'll be back tomorrow previewing the 2016 version of the Seawolves. Have a great day.